Hi, welcome to Bricks by Raf. My name is Rafał and I'm going to tell you more about Lego architecture today. I hope you'll like it. In preparation for this episode, I wanted to build all of the architecture sets for you. There are 49 of them, so I had to split this episode in half because there is so much information that I want to give you. I hope you'll like it. This is a list of all those sets built in Lego. With a blue dot, I indicated all the skylines of Lego architecture, and with a yellow star, I indicated all of my favorite sets. The history of Lego architecture dates back to the 60s. In the 60s, the designers of Lego introduced new types of bricks that helped with the development of Lego architecture. Plates. Thanks to plates, to 1/3 of the height of the brick, it was possible to build architecture models from Lego. And there were architecture companies in the 60s and 70s which used Lego bricks to build their models. Up until today, there are architecture companies that do so, for example, Bjerke Ingels Group. In 2006, Adam Reed Tucker, a Chicago-based architect, created some amazing models from Lego of famous American skyscrapers. The idea was really liked by Lego so much that they decided to cooperate with him in creating Lego architecture in 2008. Of course, since 2008, the whole series has changed a lot, and now we can divide it into two types of sets. One of them being the skylines of cities, and the other one being the landmarks of architecture. The first Lego architecture building is Sears Tower, made in 2008. This one is actually Willis Tower because in 2011 the building changed its name and Lego introduced a new set 3 years later. The building originally is made of black aluminum, so from far away it looks as it's black, and that's how it's been portrayed by the author. Actually, this building looks much better in the skyline of Chicago, which I'm going to show you later. This next Lego architecture set is John Hancock Center. It is also a building based in Chicago, also over 400 meters tall and also black. So the difference is the facade. The facade of this building originally is a bit tilted, so it was really hard to achieve in this scale, and what was used were jumper plates. Actually, the facade of this building is much better shown in the skyline of Chicago, which I'm going to show you later. The third Lego architecture set is Empire State Building. This building is a classic Art Deco building. Unfortunately, in the scale, it was really hard to show it, so thank God Lego created a new model of Empire State Building in a much bigger scale, which shows all those beautiful details. In this particular building, a jumper plate technique was used. This next building is Seattle Space Needle, a landmark of Seattle. This building was built for World Expo, just as well as the Eiffel Tower. In this particular building, no bricks were used, and all we have here are dish elements and elements of Lego Technic. I think this is the first model of this designer that's actually really well done and executed. This next building is Guggenheim Museum in New York, a landmark of architecture, an iconic building of Frank Lloyd Wright. And actually, in this scale, it doesn't look really good. There were 20 tries to build this model, and I think there should have been more because what we get is not really exceptional. Thank God, Lego created a new model of this building in a much bigger scale, which I'm going to tell you about later. Another Frank Lloyd Wright building, Fallingwater. Actually, thanks to a bigger scale, this is an amazing model. Thanks to the scale, you can see the beautiful waterfall going down, and you can see the terrain and the building, the architecture of the building going along with the terrain itself. I think it's one of the most beautiful models of Lego architecture. This next building is the White House, the place where the President of the United States is based. This building is not really well executed in my opinion. I'm not a fan of this model, and Lego created a new updated version in 2020, which I'm going to show you later, which has the left and the right wing of the building and the gardens. So I think it looks much better than this model. This next building is the icon of New York architecture, Rockefeller Center. But where's the Art Deco in this model? Where's the skating rink and where's the Christmas tree? Really, the only interesting thing in this model is the snot technique on the sides of the building, but nothing else. This next model is the tallest building in the world, Burj Khalifa in Dubai. And well, the execution in this model is, well, how can I say it, probably due to the scale quite limited. The only thing interesting actually is the use of the Y-shaped wing on the basis of this model. Lego created two new sets showing Burj Khalifa. One is the skyline of Dubai, and then another one is a separate building. Actually, both are better. This is another really well executed model of Lego architecture, Farnsworth House. One of Mies van der Rohe's best buildings, which is executed beautifully. It's extremely light, the modernism is clearly visible here, and you can see how it's hanging over the ground. I think it's one of the most beautiful models next to Fallingwater. This is Frank Lloyd Wright's Robbie's house, the biggest Lego architecture model, probably due to the fact that when you want to build a wall in this building, you have to use plates 1 by 2. And this model is really well executed. This is not a really famous architectural landmark in the world, but it's really well known in the United States and in Chicago, where the designer of this model is from. This next building is the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. Well, the model itself is okay. The details, however, are not really visible. They are really hard to see and to experience looking at this model. For example, the horses on the top of the building made of water taps, well, I don't know if it looks okay. It's up to you to decide. Sydney Opera House, one of the most well-known landmarks in Australia. The execution of this model is really good, even though the scale is small. The use of hinges here allowed the execution of the shape and the angle of the roof. I think this model is a really good example of Lego architecture. Lego also has Creator Expert series in which this building is extremely well executed. Now London, a really tiny model of Big Ben. What I like about this model is the use of clocks, of standard Lego clocks on the sides of the building. And it's really nice that the Parliament building is built as well, so you have a context that the whole building is much bigger. Lego actually created a much bigger scale model in the Creator Expert series. Maybe there will be a chance that they will tell you about it in the future. Another beautiful building of Lego architecture sets. This is Villa Savoye by Le Corbusier. In my opinion, one of the most beautiful buildings of the Lego architecture sets. the execution is phenomenal. The model is really beautiful in detail, and the use of bars in order to achieve the columns of the building is really a nice touch. This model uses quite advanced techniques, and I think it pays off in the way it looks. The Leaning Tower of Pisa. This is actually not a really well executed building. I think it's the ugly duckling of Lego architecture sets. Why is it so out of proportions? The only nice thing about this model is the use of clip elements in order to lean the tower a little bit, but not much else. Sungnyemun Gate. I hope I said it well because I don't know Korean. This is one of the biggest landmarks of Seoul. And the execution of the model is, in my opinion, okay. What was really hard to achieve was the angle of the roof. I'm not the biggest fan of this building, but I think it's quite well executed in this scale. Imperial Hotel by Frank Lloyd Wright is a building which was originally built in Tokyo, Japan. It was moved to Nagoya in 1968 due to the fact that it was shown in the Architecture Museum. What's interesting about this build is the use of techniques. What I really like is the details that are being shown of the construction and the details of the windows, which are made using the snot technique. This is United Nations headquarters in New York. What I really like about this model is the use of snot technique in order to achieve the curves of parts of the building. And what's also really interesting is the use of white levers to show the poles on which the flags are hanging. This next building is the Eiffel Tower, of course, Paris. So it's a really hard building to execute in Lego, and especially in this small scale. And I think it's done really, really well. The use of clip elements and snot technique allows to have the right angles of the tower, and the proportions are really well executed in it. We are in Roma. This is the Trevi Fountain, and I think the execution of this model is really, really good. Actually, it's extremely hard to show in this scale and those proportions the details of Baroque elements. And what's really, really nice is the use of jumper plates in order to achieve the setback of the facade. Marina Bay Sands in Singapore. I think this is a really well executed model, and what's really nice is the use of really advanced Lego techniques, Lego building techniques. What's also really interesting in this model is that on top of the building you can see the pool with water and greenery. And in this case, the front and the back of the building look really interesting. This is Lincoln Memorial, a really tiny model, but I think the execution is really precise. What's nice is the use of bars in order to achieve the columns on the sides, back and front of the building. And when you lift the roof up, you can see Abraham Lincoln's Memorial inside. This is Flatiron Building in New York. And I think this model and the execution of this model is one of the best works of this designer so far. This model shows a really interesting way of using a snot technique. What's also really nice is the colors used in this building and the use of tiles in forms of grille on the sides. This is a model of Louvre, of course Paris. So we only get a bit of the palace of Louvre, and what's interesting is the use of dark graphite elements to show the mansard roof. What's also really nice is the use of transparent elements to show the pyramid, which is the entrance to the museum. A really well executed model. Okay, that's it for today. This is the end of part 1, but please come back to see part 2, where I will show you more buildings of Lego architecture and also skylines of cities, and buildings and models which are still available to buy. So please subscribe to my channel. I hope you like my movies, and this is the way to tell me that you do. Also comment if you want and share this video with whoever you want. Thanks for watching. Bye!